Hey folks, Lenny Lawson, the car guru, and glad to be back. I've been going to a lot of baseball tournaments for first graders. You know, I will never cease to be amazed to see the difference between me as a first grader and my grandson as a first grader on the baseball field with all of these other first graders. They actually know what they're doing. They can throw, they can hit, they can catch. They even get a double play every now and then. I mean, it just amazes me. I was still playing in the dirt with my brother's cars and with my G.I. Joes. So that was not me. My parents gave me a choice. They said, you can play sports in the summer or we can go on vacations. We'll take vacations because I wanted to go to Disneyland really badly. They would hold that over my head. I wish I'd said, I want to play baseball. So maybe I would have been a major leaguer. Doubtful, but possible. So what's on the agenda today? Business has improved at my new car dealership, Gateway Ford and Gateway Nissan in Greenville, Tennessee. We had a lull when a lot of rockets were flying and the gas prices were soaring. People just said, I don't know about this. They would just kind of sit on the sidelines. And it was not just me. It was most of the dealers that I talked to were slow. But now it's energized. Hopefully there will be a pretty big surge to end April and begin May with. So what happens when you agree to buy a vehicle at the typical new car dealership and you are headed to the business office? You know, there's a lot of thoughts going on behind the scenes. I want to give you an inside picture of what's going on at the typical new car dealership. Basically, there's three different groups we're going to be talking about: the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you can get all three without going too far. If you live near a motor mile, you know, where there's a bunch of car dealers, and you will probably have 20% of them will be good, 40% will be bad, and the other 40% will be ugly. And you have to watch out for the ugly ones. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to catch them in the act. But yeah, you've thought you've bought a new vehicle. You're happy. You've agreed to a payment, or you've agreed to a purchase price. You know, let's say you're a cash buyer. You're a whole lot safer if you're a cash buyer because, you know, you're not subject to the financing schemes that a lot of payment buyers are subject to. But you can still be priced things too high, like an extended warranty or, you don't have to worry about gap insurance because you're not financing, but, any type of protection package, key replacement, tire and wheel protection, dent and ding protection, paint and fabric protection. All of these are to make you feel all warm and fuzzy with all this protection. Usually cash buyers are very reluctant to spend any more money than what they agreed to. However, more and more are buying extended warranties, and rightfully so, because of the complexity of the modern automobile. Nissan has got a really cool hybrid coming out, folks. Pardon the segue, but I was talking about technology. This is the ultimate hybrid because it runs and drives and is as smooth as an electric vehicle, which that's the one thing I like about EVs, is that they are unbelievably smooth and accelerate extremely well. So will the Nissan hybrid. Why? Because the gasoline engine that's also on this vehicle is not connected to the wheels. No, it's a power plant. All it does is generates electricity for the batteries constantly. Well, not constantly, because it will turn on and turn off, and you won't even know it. And so you will have electric motors that are driving your wheels. That's some pretty serious technology. That's not like, you think about the Toyota hybrids. They're the ones that are getting all the press right now. Have you ever heard one of those things when the engine's turned off? It is loud. I would not be happy with that, but a lot of people are. They're buying them. But the difference is that the engine is really what drives the vehicle. The battery and electric motor kick in and supplements what the engine is doing. But there's a drive shaft and a transmission, and it goes straight to the wheels. Not with the Nissan. Electric motors drive the wheels. So it's going to be extremely smooth. I'm excited about that. But all the more reason to buy an extended warranty. So cash buyers are buying extended warranties. Sometimes they will buy a maintenance package if it makes sense. You know, you'll see a lot of cash buyers. They'll pull out a calculator. These people, they've taken care of their money, and they pay attention to their budget. They've saved a lot, and when they go out and they want to make a major purchase, they just write a check for it. Wouldn't that be great? How do you get there? Well, we'll talk about that in another episode. But right now, the people that are vulnerable are the payment buyers. And so they're getting ready to walk into somewhat of a trap, depending on whether they are at the good, the bad, or the ugly car dealer. I'll be back in just 1 minute. Okay, I am back. So if you're at the Motor Mile, wherever you may live, just a bunch of car dealers, and you are lucky enough to walk into a car dealership, a sales department that does things right, labeled as good by the car guru, then you've agreed to a monthly payment. And that monthly payment doesn't have anything in it but sales tax. Okay? No warranties, no gap insurance, nothing. They haven't added anything. So you walk into the finance office, and that nice finance person tells you what your base payment is going to be, and then starts to offer you different products like an extended warranty service contract, gap insurance, all these protection packages, prepaid maintenance. That's about what they're going to offer you. And if they've offered you an interest rate, I would want to know what that is, wouldn't you? What's the term of the loan? But the important thing here is the good dealer tells you what your base payment is without any of that extra stuff added. That's how you smoke out the bad one, because the bad one handles things differently. You've been closed on a payment, but you don't know what's in that payment because they haven't told you. Then you walk into the finance office. The finance manager congratulates you on your purchase, starts doing the paperwork. Sometimes they use a menu, but most of the time they don't, because they don't really want you to know what's in that monthly payment. They just print out a bunch of paperwork, and then they disclose it as you're signing it. So at least they're acknowledging that there are additional products in there that you're paying for. If you are savvy enough and not too excited about driving off in that new vehicle, then you scrutinize that paperwork and you say, "Hold on a minute. What's this?" And the guy says, "Well, that's your 6-year, 200,000-mile extended warranty." "How much is it?" "Oh, it's only $68 a month." "No. What's the purchase price with tax?" And then he tells you it's $5,000. And you say, "No. No, thank you." And this is how the dealership makes additional money. That particular dealership has a culture of deception. They rely on uninformed car buyers to not scrutinize what they're doing. Now, well, Lenny, what's the difference between the bad and the ugly? Well, with the ugly, the dealership that does it in an ugly way, there's no disclosure. In fact, they have actively been in cahoots with the desk manager, the manager that's behind the curtain, not the salesperson you're talking to because he's clueless. It's the sales manager or the desk manager that has structured, and that's the key word, structured this transaction for the greatest profitability, closed you on a monthly payment, worked with a finance manager to make sure that all the profits that he has put in the back, what we call the back end of that deal, has maximum profit in it. And then they don't want to disclose anything. They just have you sign paperwork. Just keep shoving it in front of your face. And you keep signing it because all you're thinking about is getting out of there and driving home in your new vehicle. And then if you happen to scrutinize your paperwork once you get home, maybe a couple of days later, it's too late. You go into that ugly dealership, like let's say you buy a car on Friday, you go into the ugly dealership on Monday and say, hey, listen, I don't like this deal. I want my money back. Good luck. You probably won't even be able to find the salesperson or the manager or the finance manager because they saw you coming, getting out of your car, and they've run back and they're hiding in the detail shop or maybe even back in the parts department because they know why you're there. You read your paperwork. You think I'm kidding, don't you? I'm not kidding. They'll make it extremely hard to find anybody that knows anything about your deal, and then you'll leave unsatisfied and give them a terrible Google rating. Yeah, that's going to hurt them. It really doesn't. They figure out ways to bury those. I don't know how they do it. But it's just sad. Now, if you had been a savvy car buyer, you would have read all that paperwork before you left, before you signed it and before you left. And then you could do something about it. But the problem is when you come back a couple of days later, there's nothing you can do because they won't help you. Now, when you're talking about the good dealer, if you had something that you didn't like, let's say you changed your mind on an extended warranty or you changed your mind on the prepaid maintenance. If you come in on a Monday after you bought the vehicle on Friday, they're going to take it off. They're going to redo the paperwork, and they're going to take care of you. You know why? Because they want you to be happy. They want you to come back. They want good Google ratings. Their reputation matters to them. They've been in business a long time. You know, I see these dealers in our market, for example, that they come in and they swoop in and buy a dealership, and then they steal employees from the other dealerships that are around them because they make all these promises about how much money they're going to make in that dealership. And so the salespeople leave the good dealership and go to the bad or the ugly dealership, and they make a bunch of money for a while. And then things start to fall apart, and they realize that, you know, basically what they're doing to people. And the people or the salespeople that have consciences and the managers, they end up leaving. I can't do this to folks. I'm not doing this anymore. That's what they say. But then there's others, you know, they're making $150,000, $250,000 a year, and they can live with it. And they're willing to live with it because it's us against them. That's the culture. And they're friendly. They're really nice people. You know, when you're in there, they're just patting you on the back and helping you celebrate the purchase of your new car and stabbing you in the back at the same time. That's how they operate. But people don't realize it until after the fact. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can tell it if you just pay attention, slow down. You know, if a salesperson walks up to you and said, what kind of monthly payment you looking for? You're at the wrong place because they're ugly. They might just be bad, but more than likely, they're ugly. And if you walk into a dealership, salesperson's polite, asks a lot of questions, tries to find out what you're trying to accomplish, helps you accomplish that, doesn't put pressure on you to buy anything, presents you with numbers that are clear and concise, not on some kind of a four-square worksheet where all they're trying to do is get you to focus on the monthly payment. You know, sometimes I just wish everybody could read the My Car Guru guidebook, the book that I wrote. It's a guidebook. It's 32 pages. But if everybody could read that, and I'll email it to you if you send me your email address to 423-552-2020, if everybody could read the car buying section in that before they went in to buy a car, it would work so well for them. They would not pay too much for a car. They'd get a whole lot better deal. And it can, I mean, the difference between a good deal and a horrible deal can be as much as $10,000 or $15,000. I'm serious. They can hide that much profit in a deal if you're at an ugly dealership. How are they going to hide that profit? By extending the term beyond what you realize, by increasing the interest rate without you seeing it, by charging you $5,000 too much on an extended warranty or service contract. Here I go again. Or gap insurance. You know, all of those products, you need to do a little research not only on the car that you're thinking about buying, but what does a warranty cost for this? What does gap insurance cost? What should I pay? If you do a little bit of research online, everybody's got a cell phone. Well, some people have flip phones. But just do a little research, and you go in there armed, and you just say, well, I'm not paying that for a service contract. No, that's 50% too much. Where'd you get that information? Well, I just did a little research. But I feel like you're trying to take advantage of an old person here. And they will. They'll take advantage of old people, young people. They can sniff them out because they've had plenty of experience. These people that show up to these special events, you get this mailer, you get this piece of mail, and it says, you have either won a big screen TV, a set of golf clubs, an Apple Watch, or a lottery ticket, or $25,000 in cash. If you get one of those in the mail, that dealership, more than likely, is either bad or ugly. Really good dealers, they don't run those kind of promotions. They don't hire the outside teams, these sales crews, these roving gypsies that come around and run these events. No, they rely on their team, and their employees have been there a while, and they respect their customers, and they live in this community. They're not from Kansas City or New York or Florida, going all over the country holding these special event sales. And you can see it when you walk in. If you see a bunch of police tape and a money machine in the showroom where you can stand and grab for dollar bills, you see balloons absolutely everywhere, salespeople standing in the front, just lined up, just waiting to pounce. You need to run from that place. When you see it, when you pull in, just put it in reverse, back out, and go down the road. Go to a dealership that doesn't have all that nonsense, and I think you'll be a lot better off. Okay, I'll be back in just 1 minute. I was looking at my computer a few minutes ago, and I found an email from Hertz, the rental car place, and it had an attachment, and it was an Excel spreadsheet full of cars that they have for sale this week. And there were 1,904 of them on that list. And they were spread all over the country. Hertz is a big organization, and they buy cars from the manufacturers. Looks like Kia and Hyundai and Chevrolet are selling the most cars to Hertz. And you know what that means, don't you? They can't sell them retail, and their factories need to stay busy, so they overproduce the vehicles, and they sell the excess to the rental car companies. Well, guess what that does to the value of your Hyundai or your Kia or your Chevrolet? That's right. It dilutes the value. The more that there are in the market, the lower the price. It's the law of supply and demand. But see, you don't have access to this information. You can't see, what Hertz and Avis and National Car Rental and Enterprise are selling at the auctions. But dealers can, and if you go to a dealership and you shop their used car lot and you find a Kia K4 or a Sportage or Hyundai, Kia Sportage, Hyundai something or other, Sonata, and I want to know where that thing came from. You got to look at the Carfax and see if it was a rental car. Is that bad? No. Not necessarily. You just have to realize that if it's got 30,000 miles on it, it might have had 1,500 drivers, and all of them don't take special care of a vehicle. You'll find out that most of those vehicles have the rear bumpers are painted, the front bumpers are painted, and that stuff will be peeling off in a few years for sure, because they don't go to all kinds of extra effort to make sure that it's done right on a rental car. And you may get in and you may smell smoke. That's another thing. I just can't believe people will buy a used car, from somebody like Carvana and not give it the smell test. I mean, what if you are an anti-smoker and they deliver a car for a BMW to you in your driveway and you're all excited, then you get in it and it smells like, it's been in a pool hall? You're not going to be happy. And that's just not the way to buy a used car. You buy a used car after you've driven it, after you've smelled it, and after you've had a mechanic inspect it, unless you feel good about the dealership and that they stand behind their products that they sell. I've always said that you're safer if you buy a used car from a new car dealer, but you have to be able to sniff out the bad and the ugly, and there's plenty of that. So you may have a salesperson, for example, that waits on you, and you're looking at a car, and you say, yeah, I just like to buy one-owner cars. He said, well, this one's a one-owner. And then you pull the Carfax up, and you see, yeah, it was one owner. It was Hertz rental car. You consider that one owner? I don't. I consider a one-owner car something that was, from East Tennessee or from wherever you live. Somebody bought it new at the dealership and then traded it in. One of the best kind of cars to buy is a used vehicle that was bought new at a particular dealership, and then they traded it in at that same dealership. That says several things. That says that the customer was happy with the car, well, probably, and definitely, though, happy with the dealership because they came back. And more than likely, they had all their service work done there as well. So these are things that you need to do. Check the Carfax or the auto check. It's an Experian. You can go to Experian.com and pull an auto check on a vehicle. It costs you money unless you do it through me. 423-552-2020. Send me the VIN number, all 17 digits. Make sure you get it right. I prefer to have a picture of it because sometimes people mistranslate VIN numbers, and I'll get 16 digits and I can't help them. So take a picture of it and tell me what equipment the vehicle has on it. Does it have a sunroof? Is it a platinum package or if it's an F-150, an XL or a XLT or something? I need to know the particulars on the vehicle, and then I can pull a Carfax or an auto check and tell you the history of that vehicle and whether it's worth considering or not. See, I'm valuable occasionally. And if you want a copy of the My Car Guru guidebook or the Teen Driver Experience book, just send me your email address to 423-552-2020, and I'll get it out on the next train. Well, thanks for listening. I hope this provides you with some helpful information to protect your budget, to protect your wallet, and to protect you from a lot of hassle in the future. I want to improve your car life. That's what this is all about. See you next time.